Yeah, Sandeep, go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, dear members, our esteemed panelists, my senior colleague, Mr. S. Manohar. Also, he is the moderator of the today's panel discussion. A very hearty welcome to all of you on today's interactive panel discussion on the role of automation in manufacturing, impact of COVID-19, organized by the VDMA India in association with the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. We hope all of you and your families and employees are all safe and doing well. I myself, Sandeep Roy, I am based out of Calcutta office of VDMA and would be taking you through the initial part of the today's webinar. Friends, COVID-19 has created an economic turmoil globally where industries and businesses, small, medium and large, have come to a standstill. For manufacturing industries globally, the pandemic has resulted in a vast decline in revenue and profits. Under these constrained circumstances, businesses are experiencing significant cut down of workforce to maintain social distancing, resulting in overall loss of industrial production activities. Under this gloomy scenario, automation and the robotics have a vital role to play across the multiple facets of life, ranging from consumer products to services to industrial production. While in the pre-crisis era, automation was perceived as a means to innovate, reduce cost, and gain a competitive edge. Now the purpose has shifted to survival and the damage limitation. To mitigate the global supply chain risks for future crises, manufacturers will consider bolstering their in-house capabilities instead of outsourcing manufacturing to other countries. The pandemic will intensify the need to automate, especially in jobs that have a high human interaction and the ones that are hazardous, causing death or injuries. Building technologies that will protect and provide workers and consumers a safe environment will be the focal point in this drive to automate. Friends, in this order to discuss more in details and share more insights to our members in particular, I would like to introduce and welcome a very illustrious and experts joining us in today's interactive panel discussion. Starting with, we have Dr. Amaresh Chakraborty, Senior Professor and the Chairman, Center for Product Design and Manufacturing, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Mr. Bipin Jirge, Managing Director, IFM Electronic Private Limited, Kolhapur. Mr. Ravi Agarwal, Managing Director, People and Fuchs Factory Automation Private Limited, Gurgaon. Mr. Jitendra Kumar Kataria, Managing Director, Bekoff Automation Private Limited, Pune. And Mr. Pradeep David, General Manager, South Asia, Universal Robots Private Limited, Bangalore. A hearty welcome to all of you, our dear panelists. Friends, before we move to the panel discussion, a very brief introduction on VDMA. VDMA is the largest industrial association of Europe with 127 years of legacy. We have more than 3,300 members across all the engineering verticals, which employs more than 1.03 million employees, with hoping 232 billion of worth of productions, out of which 78% are exported. We have divided into 38 specialized engineering verticals. And as far as the organizations are expressed, where offices are primarily in the BRICS nations, like India, China, Brazil, and Russia. And we have also a representative office in Brussels, in Belgium, and a small office in Japan. Now, friends, before we move further, I would request our audience to remind all of you that you can post all your questions during the webinar under the question sections, and that would be answered during the question and answer. Now, friends, I request my senior colleague, Mr. Manohar, to take this forward. Over to you, Manohar.
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. Very good afternoon to all of you, the esteemed panelists. We have illustrious panelists today, and all the participants. I think we have a good number of participants as of now joined in. And friends, 3 months ago, we knew a mysterious virus could send all. We did not know actually a mysterious virus could send almost the entire world under some form of lockdown and affect billions of lives and businesses. Currently, this is happening. The COVID pandemic is being compared to a black swan effect. When you say black swan, these are events that are very rare, extremely rare, and highly improbable. They share very two important characteristics. They're unpredictable and they have a massive impact on the people, which is currently definitely happening. In a moment of crisis like this, it is usually sometimes good to know some wisdom of the past. Some 2,300 years ago, dear friends, Chanakya, everybody knows for his wittiness and capability, wrote this insightful nugget, which strangely enough is relevant to our present dilemma. He said, the root of wealth is economic activity, and the lack of it brings material distress. In the absence of fruitful activity, both current prosperity and future growth are in danger of destruction. Dear friends, in our present context, this message is very clear. We need to leverage our fixed and current assets to achieve productivity. As India strives to become a preferred manufacturing hub and be globally competitive, it is critical for the industries to be digitally transformed and to be future ready to manage the fast changing business and this technology landscape that's going to hit us. The industrial automation, which is the focus of our webinar today, is projected to grow at a CAGR, compounded annual growth rate of 10 to 2%, 10 to 12% up to 2022. These figures of BC, when I say BC is before COVID, so we hope the figures would over a period of 1 or 2 years can substantiate and expected to touch $3.5 billion by 2022. This is essentially to achieve the ambitious target of making India the global hub of manufacturing, design and innovation, and augmenting the entire share of manufacturing in the GDP, which is expected, if not by 2024, at least by 2025, 26 to be around 24% of the GDP. Dear friends, in the next 40-45 minutes, we would hear from our esteemed panelists here to the future ready of the innovation industry for the Indian industry, innovative solutions for the Indian industry. To start with, let us start with the first poll for today. And the first poll is coming up for you. Dear friends, I think the polls are now on your screens. As you can see it across, the topic is the extent or level of automation undertaken in a shop floor on the product application. Is it high? Is it moderate? Is it low? Is it yet to undertake? So we'll give a couple of seconds, at least a minute for the poll to take its shape. I think this is very relevant. I think a lot of inputs should be obtained to our panelists that would take it forward based on these thoughts. It's a good statistics being shown there. Let's give it another 15-20 seconds, please. Okay, we shall close the poll now. I would like to share the results on. So as it is, as you can see, dear friends, 37% is moderate and 19% is high. So as you can see, it's between them is close to 60%. So 60% is moderate to high level of automation that our people who have participated today are displaying the automation levels, and 33% is low. Only 11% is said to undertake a good opportunity for all of us to take it forward across. Well, I think that sets the trend across for today, and we have the first round starting. And my first question is to Professor Amresh Chakravarti. According to Census 2011, the workforce was estimated, the total workforce was estimated to be around 450 million. The reality is that regardless how heavily automated the sector becomes, 71% value created by the operation comes from human actions. Yes, sir. According to the State of Human Factory Analytics, according to the State of Human Factory Analytics, AT Kearney 2018 study, in layman terms, the means of manufacturing, biggest source of innovation and intelligence will be always people. Professor, we'd like you to enlighten us how India can achieve productivity by balancing automation and people in manufacturing. It's very important. India is a highly populous country. We need to balance both. So how do we balance both production and automation, people and automation to achieve productivity in organization? Over to you, Professor.
Okay, thank you. And first of all, let me thank VDMA for inviting me here, and also it's a great honor to be with this very esteemed panel. Now, I think we need to understand that the question is not about automation versus people. The question is really about getting the organization to do better, cheaper, faster, safer, and do that in a more efficient manner. That's what the goal is. So the question is, what is it that the people or the characteristics of people bring to the organization? What is it that characteristics of automation bring to the organization? Does it at the end help us achieve any of these? So, depending on the situation, and let me just take two examples. One example is a high throughput modern car company, something like a Volvo or BMW would have, for example, and compare that with a low throughput, very highly expensive car company like Lamborghini, okay, northern Italian company. What's the difference between them? The first one is highly automated, and the second one is incredibly manual. So you see, both of them are, right at the top end of car manufacturing, and yet the way in which they operate are very different. So the question is not about automation versus human being, but what is it that does the job better? Because the northern Italian companies that are producing these almost pieces of art require a huge amount of craftsmanship, okay? Yeah. Something that is not possible to be replicated and also not required to be replicated in large numbers at this point of time, that human beings are essential for that function. So, and similarly for the other one, where we have pretty much understood it's a fairly platformed product that we can tweak here and there and create many variants, and then we can push them through in very large numbers. Automation of manufacturing plays a significant role. So the question that we should really be asking is, how do the elements of smart, okay, empower these industries wherever they are? What is it that we can do to make that low throughput, high value car manufacturing company in northern Italy to do better, as we would do, for example, our companies to do better? And I see that these can come from 5 elements that I would consider the elements of smart. Yeah. One is how to sense, second is how to communicate, third is how to store, fourth is how to analyze, and fifth is how to control. So in what way can we empower whatever function they are doing by bringing in these elements? And there are plenty of examples. For example, I'll take one specific case. Remember, I'm not talking about COVID as yet at all. I'm just talking about the so-called automation versus non-automation question. We are working with a very small, a micro manufacturing company, okay, in Bangalore. And this micro manufacturing company, which is a relatively small unit with about 20 people working, is making shoes, orthotic shoes. And these orthotic shoes, when the incoming material is produced, what they do is they inspect after the shoes are made, look at the soles and find that there are little holes there. Okay, and there is a person who is supposed to check it but
Correct.
either the person doesn't check as often as he should, or that when he checks, he doesn't find those issues. So these shoes go out and they have to be either thrown away or reworked. So as a result of this, you see that either if the shoe goes through, there is a loss of quality. If the shoe doesn't go through and you have to stop and do rear, there is a lot of loss of productivity. If it has to be thrown away, there is a loss of cost, and there is a loss of, and so on and so forth. So what we have done is that we have created an inspection solution which marries very low cost cameras with very highly sophisticated imaging techniques.
Okay.
So shifting the cost from hardware to software. And as a result, we are able to bring down the cost and get rid of some of the non-essential pieces. And suddenly, with respect to the competition that is out in the market, where such a system would cost 12 lakhs, we are able to get it at 80,000.
Okay.
And suddenly, as you know, if you reduce the cost by half, your market size goes up by fourfold. You are suddenly talking about a much bigger market. So I think that is the point. The point is, how do you bring smart to significantly value add in order to make things cheaper, faster, safer, um, more flexible, more efficient, and so on. I'll stop there. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. It was interesting to share with you the automation level you have undertaken in the shoe manufacturing. I'm sure that people would have got enlightened by knowing across how they can automate. And today, as you rightly mentioned, the software is taking over the manufacturing sector too. And there's a very thin line separating the manufacturing or mechanical engineering with the electronics or the software. Today is more mechatronics or I'm sure that the word of mechaware or mecha software or mechaware is not far away. When people talk mechatronics and mechawares, I'm sure the days are not far away. So I think, thank you for, yeah, go ahead.
Just one little point I want to add, which is that please don't misunderstand us. We are also working with Yaskawa in order to use some of the latest techniques in learning, imitation learning, for example, in order to
Yeah.
bring them quality of intelligence for their next level robots. So,
Okay.
it doesn't matter whether you are working with the micro manufacturing company or whether you are working with, and I'm sorry, I mean, these are not universal robots, but we would be very happy to work with you. But Yaskawa, in this case, we are working with some of the top robotics companies as well. Point is that we have to see what fits and what value add it brings. If it doesn't, then we shouldn't use it.
Correct. Thanks, Professor. Thank you very much. I think you have set the trend for the day, for the evening or for the afternoon. I'm sure our speakers will follow it up across. The next, as you rightly said about the robos, and now we come across to the next person who is also from the robo side, Mr. Pradeep David from Universal Robos. Pradeep, touchless automation, which is the norm today. Touchless automation, everything has to be automated, and we are looking at touchless automation. Anything moving from any component moving from a point A to point B without even touching it across is important today in the factory shop floor. The solution involves manipulating components of any material in any way across. So touch-free automation, whether it is power tools, whether you want to touch a lift today, I mean, in the elevators, or how do you, whether it has to be voice based. So how do you synthesize all these activities? So the question to you is, how do we achieve contactless manufacturing through automation on shop floor?
That's a great question, Manohar. Let me start with contactless manufacturing. I think it's very critical. We just heard about robots a minute ago, but I would like to focus a little bit on collaborative robots, cobots, okay? Because I believe the age has come. You mentioned that automation, you're expecting to grow 10 to 12%. Collaborative robots is a revolution which is growing at 45% right now. Compound annual growth rate. It's by far the fastest growing sector in the industrial automation space. And why is that so? Okay, let's take a look at the level of robotization in India. Okay, I mean, yes, we talked about automation and taking jobs and those kind of things, but let the numbers speak for themselves. The average average number of robots per 10,000 employees, as stated by the IFR, the International Federation of Robotics, is 99. So let's say about 100 robots per 10,000. Okay. Do you know what India stands at? 4 robots per 10,000. That's 25 times behind the global average. So there's no question right now about talking about humans and robots replacing human beings. We are so far behind. Our nearest neighbor and our competitor, China, they use 140 robots per 10,000 to our 4. So we are woefully behind in the adaptation of technology, because we know the benefits. We know the benefits of, we've all learned about robots. Where do you use robots? In areas that are dull, dirty, dangerous. I'd like to add 2 more. Difficult and distancing is required. So let's just take that one at a time. Dull jobs, pick and place operations are very common, right? So today, when you go back, half the number of operators are there in the plants. So therefore, you need assistance, for picking and placing. Dirty environments, you do not want a human being working, let's say, in a paint shop area. In fact, I'd go to the inverse of dirty. Human beings' fingers are the most dirty things when you're talking about handling biscuits and chips and food products, right? So you would want to use cobots in dull, dirty, dangerous furnace areas. We're talking about press loading and unloading, mine handling. These are typically places you would use a collaborative robot. Difficult. In Honda, we're taking the crankcase and loading on an LTM, leak testing machine. It's a very complex machine piece, which a human being struggles to load in, through the contours of the machine. This is exactly where difficult applications. And finally, distancing. So you said to quote studies. There's an MIT study done at Spartanburg in a BMW factory. When humans and robots were put to work together, there was an 85% reduction in idle time, with a dramatic improvement in productivity. Therefore, we believe that the assembly lines of the future are going to be human, robot, human, robot. We're already seeing this in places like Bajaj, where this concept is being used. So automatic distancing, where a cobot handles hands-off. What is a cobot, by the way? It's like a human arm. It's almost exactly what a human arm does. That's what a cobot does, right? The only thing, it makes no mistakes. It does it 24/7. It accurately loads it into the chuck at a 100 micron accuracy, and those doesn't take coffee breaks. Now, when you're struggling for operators, you don't need to worry about the cobot. It's there 24/7 manufacturing parts. One of the biggest reasons we're getting calls today is manufacturers telling me, I'm really scared about a second wave. I cannot depend on my labor. I've got parts I need to export. I need something to manufacture and keep my doors open. So contactless manufacturing is one part of it. By the way, we are playing our role in COVID. For example, fumigation. People have taken our robot arm, put a fumigation gun on it. So let's say there's a COVID patient that's occupied the bed. Nobody wants to go and clean that place. So I put an ultraviolet wand in its hand. It cleans that or fumigates that place. And I'm remotely controlling it on an AGV with a joystick. Yeah. So a throat swab is another example. So in Denmark, we've got the guy opening his mouth. He puts his head at the one plate, and the robot, it's actually got touch sensitivity. It knows when it's touched the back of your throat, and it's taking the swab for analysis. No human beings there. Why do you want to risk your family and mine to things that can easily be done by automation, right? Mask making, that's another one that's a common thing. So I've taken it, I know, a little bit beyond contactless manufacturing, but I believe today the age of cobots has arrived, where a cobot is nothing but a human arm that's helping you in your production.
True. I think you've given amazing examples, especially in the hospital sector. I remember you sending me a video of a robo moving in a hospital across and treating patients. So I'm sure from the manufacturing sector, it moves across to the non-manufacturing sector, to in the hospitality sector, and that's how the robo impacts activities for us. Now, dear friends, we talked of cobos, we talked of robos, but there are several other solutions in the automation sector that would impact the manufacturing activity in contactless manufacturing, which is going to drive the automation. So my next question across is to Mr. Ravi Agarwal on we do not have dearth of solutions today on the shop floor for achieving automation. Mr. Ravi Agrawal, I would like you to advise our participants on the various technological solutions. It can be as various as a simple IoT like a sensor, various steps from AR, VR, ADV. Just now we heard Pradeep talk about ADV, robots, digital twins, etc. Various other products that can impact smart manufacturing or machine-to-machine connectivity and their applications on the floor, shop floor. Who better than you can explain to us all this? Thank you.
Thanks, Manohar. Good to be with you all. Manohar, you have put me in a difficult spot. You have asked me to act and express like a magician. Unfortunately, one size may not fit all. And we talked in context of our country. Our country is a very diverse country. The needs, the spectrum of needs, the spectrum of applications are very diverse. So for sure, today we benefit from a plethora, humongous amounts and variety of technology that are available across the globe, more so in India. Challenge is all kinds of automation suitable to my needs? So I'll try to follow Dr. Amresh here that yes, there are lots of things, but what is it that we are trying to do? And fortunately, we have all sorts of generations of technology in all scales of economies available that can provide the solution. The challenge, however, is what is the enterprise goal? Is the goal quality? Is the goal supply chain optimization? So, to answer your question in the right context, I would say yes, the better the technology gets and the more connected we talk about IIoT, I4, smart technologies, that means we are today in a very, very enviable situation that we can leapfrog the evolution and application of technology and solutions in our industry and directly apply the state of the art with maximization of the results. And as Dr. Amresh expressed so nicely with his vision system, using the technology for maximization of results with minimization of cost. And I think that's really a boon for our manufacturing because our market is a value-based market for one. And of course, affordability of automation remains to be a question. However, if you take a look for the hardware, really the automation and electronics, automation hardware pricing crash by 10 to 12% every year over a period of so many years, so to say. But modern technology and modern solutions have actually added yet another advantage or springboard. I'll just give you an example here. It's very difficult, to suddenly talk about AR, VR, and other things in legacy machines, because what it needs is a proper CAD/CAM, proper nesting of all kinds of algorithms and solutions, but retrofitting them. Modern technology is allowing the legacy and the cutting edge to work together. So it will be a dream world, I would say, if I can subscribe to my other panelists, as Dr. Amresh said and Pradeep so nicely said, that in critical areas, in fact, the prices of cobots, if you find how they have become so much affordable, we are not talking about 200, 300 premiums, which used to be existing in yesteryears, but in a highly competitive world of automation hardware supply. Given certain specific problems of, let's say, quality, of human efficiency, I would say a very good amalgamation of technology for a right fit. I'll repeat, one size may not fit all, but we need to find before application what is the enterprise goal or the problem area, and solution is just like as groceries are today available in a super bazaar. Over to you, Manohar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. Nicely put across. One size doesn't fit all. We have so plethora of tools applicable for automation, and it has to be used together to achieve the right. It's like, you need to strike the arrows in the right direction. So it's all using the right tools in the right direction to achieve the objective, that is higher productivity or quality, or the 3Ds, like Pradeep has mentioned across. To achieve that, I think we need a good confluence of all these things. My next question is to Bipin. Bipin, it began with reactive maintenance. Fix it after it's forgotten. Concept. That was all was prevailing before we saw the advent of predictive maintenance. Predictive maintenance, I know it's a very pet subject, a pet topic. It reduces energy, eliminates breakdowns to 35 to 40%, reduces downtime to 75%, in addition to optimizing machine and cut energy consumption to 20-25%. We would like to understand from you, Pradeep, how predictive maintenance and remote diagnostics function through connected machines on the shop floor, and how it can benefit organization.
Thank you very much, Manor, and thank you, VDMA, and all of you friends to have me here. See, maintenance exists since the days machines have started to exist. Yeah? It's a very old concept. Maintenance is, every manufacturing guy knows maintenance. The concepts have been changing over the years. We used to have a breakdown maintenance, then intelligence on the shop floor prompted us to go for time-based maintenance. We called it as a preventive, and now we are talking about a predictive maintenance. And nowadays, if everybody have heard the name OE and all those big concepts, it actually starts from a very small thing, from the basics. The rough average is the availability of the machine on a typical shop floor comes down by 10% due to maintenance. Yeah? And if we can save this 10%, the OE straight away goes up by 10%. It adds to your bottom line because banks are getting their interest every day. We are paying the wages every day. And, the maintenance is eating away all the revenue. And it's a big percentage typically. So nowadays, we are all talking about predictive maintenance to increase the productivity directly. Now, to go to the basics, now we are talking about, some kind of way to know when the machine will be down. If we can predict that, we can plan for that. I can plan a spare part of a bearing, I can plan the overhauling of a motor or whatever. Now, how to do this? In older days, in traditional way, we used to, have a time based. Every month, you check the oil or something like that. Every 2 months, you check the running temperature of the motor. And now we are talking about a predictive.
I think Bipin, yeah, I think Bipin, internet is a bit affected, and I think he's speaking from Kolhapur. Kolhapur is southernmost tip of Maharashtra, so connectivity could be a challenge, unlike in metros like where we are staying today. So, anybody, Ravi, could you want to take that across forward? Just to add what predictive maintenance, how it can help across on the shop floor. Just to add it across.
Definitely, it as I'll just continue with where I tapered off last time. It's
Okay.
yet another technology, and the cost of a breakdown is severe. And again, marrying that technology with the kind of forecasting or prediction of machine characteristics, be it vibration, be it temperature, be it the variations of RPM, so on and so forth, depending on the typicality of the machine, you can avoid breakdown. One is preventive maintenance. But when we are so short of resources all the time, predictive means if you draw a matrix, how valuable a system is and how critical a fault is. If you have this two-dimensional matrix, marry it onto your sensing and software, you can always prioritize. So preventive maintenance, instead of squandering resources because you have a shift and a supervisor has to schedule maintenance guys over the plan, monitoring is another problem. Because whether the job is nicely done or not, whether the vibration really came down or not is never known. I mean, with a human factor and some unforeseen factors around, a predictive maintenance, I would say hardware as well as the middleware can not only prescribe, but post maintenance also give you an analysis as to what has been the correction on it. Thereby, in a dynamically varying environment, also give you a priority-based prescription. And I think I know Bipin as a colleague and doing a wonderful job out there with all the vibration sensors. I wish he could have been here to explain that.
I think let's hope he would join us shortly. I'm expecting him to join us shortly. Finally, on the first round, the last question, not the least, to Mr. Jitendra Kataria. All this requires, Bipin, I'll come to you, just let me across.
I'm sorry, something got cocked off. I'm sorry.
Jitu, all this is not possible unless the environment is secure. We may have any number of tools, and today data is the new oil or new machine or whatever is that people talk about that. Unless all this is not possible, unless all these things are secure. Today, data security is the biggest activity. And there was this anecdote which says Airbus faced a threat this year when it reported an attack on its information systems on their manufacturing plant, and it affected their operations. So manufacturing industry today relying more on data when it's moved towards smart manufacturing, where the entire shop floor, the supply chain are progressively getting interconnected. So question to you, Jitu, is how cyber security or internet security or data security challenges can be handled in a manufacturing industry addressing the systemic risk and also capitalizing the benefits of next generation technology. Over to you.
Thanks, Manoj. Thanks, VDMA, for having me on this platform, and say hello to all my friends out here. Yeah, I think we are from the automation fraternity, and we always talk about openness, about connected machines, about a lot of new things coming up, like when you talk about artificial intelligence or machine learning and other stuff. On the other hand, we have to also balance the security aspect of this also. And that's where I think we have to act also as a IT in the IT arena also. So industrial security is not just securing the IT system, but also the operational systems like PLCs, CNCs, and all the controllers that we have now in on the shop floor. And in this regard, I think VDMA has provided very good guidelines, which I went through, and good recommendations for and actions which are required for industry 4.0 security. So I think it was a very elaborate guidelines provided by VDMA, and I think that will help a lot of industries around if they follow this guidelines and recommendations provided by VDMA. With connected machines in industry 4.0 application, both operator and manager should ensure security at all times across all the layers. So certainly, also security functions is dynamic. So it is not like today we did something for security and it is done. No, it keeps on changing over a period of time. And as you see, like a lot of malware attacks and a lot of things coming up, and we being in the PC-based control era where we are using an IT-based platform in the back of system. So certainly here we have to work very much close to the IT platform and see that we secure the systems and the controllers which are there for controlling the machines, and no like not giving access to people who don't need access to the systems. So right from design phase, a risk analysis should be done by the manufacturer, like what can be the threats which can come through in these systems. Further, network segmentation is also important, where a proper segmentation of a network where rights are given to access in a proper network only, and you don't give access to a network which can be threatened by some other attacks or something. So for example, like you have a local area network in your own factory, so you're only giving access to your factory or your machines to this LAN network. So this will ensure a lot of things for MSME sector, because they can't afford a consultant, a big consultant, to do a lot of things. So they at least they should take this simple steps which are required for security. Further, I think account access right management, secure communication protocols can enhance security further. So also OPC UA provides a very secure CS certificate-based client-server communication platform, and there are good guidelines laid by OPC UA, and this can be also helpful in implementing Industry 4.0. So with this, I think back of we are already doing this with our control platform, but also the product security side, we are also ensuring that we give the right guidelines to our partners to implement this. I'm pretty sure also my friends out here, they are also having the right kind of inputs for all the customers out here, and using the open platform or open communication protocols like OPCUA or MQTT, we can ensure communication too. Over to you, Manu.
Yeah, I think I will. That's very well explained. I would also come across to you on OPCUA later, but I think that's a well explained topic across. I would now ask Bipin to complete his advice to us on predictive maintenance, which just got cut across. Yeah, Pradeep, Bipin, go ahead.
I apologize, something happened and then I was cut off.
Technology is challenging always, Bipin.
Technology is challenging, yeah. So I was talking about predictive maintenance. If the
Correct.
maintenance time can be optimized or reduced, it can't be zero anyway, then we can gain 10% OE improvement. That's what the world average says. Secondly, it's not a very big rocket science. What we can do, especially for SMEs and MSMEs, because that's where the 85% of the employment comes from, and a big portion of our Indian economy is depending on SMEs and MSMEs. Yeah. So what they can do for this kind of say remote maintenance or predictive maintenance is we have observed worldwide that if we can monitor just 2 parameters of the machine, we can actually reduce the downtime by 45%. And these 2 parameters are temperature and vibration. Yeah, it's a common sense, but unfortunately not very commonly known. If we can monitor these 2 parameters of a machine aggregate, then we can practically reduce the maintenance time or maintenance requirement by 45%. The fact is, something happens in the mechanical systems. Something gets misaligned, something gets damaged like the bearings, and vibration increases. And we don't come to know the increase in vibration. Then something happens further and the whole thing gets heated up. So a rise in temperature is a consequence of bad mechanical things happening in a machine. And
Correct.
these can be monitored in a predictive way if you can mount some simple devices in the machine and be able to plot the trend of these 2 parameters. And trend plotting nowadays needs a history of data, yeah, be it in a digital form or a age-old 4 to 20 milliampere form. That's not a problem. We can do it in any way to start with. If we can plot somehow the trend of these 2 parameters on the machines, we can fairly predict the trend and the downtime, that this is the level. My class 8 motor should not go beyond 120 degrees. Now, yesterday it was 100 degrees, today itself in 2 days it has gone to 115. So that's a trouble coming. So something like that can be very easily done without using a very high-tech thing, and it can be a very big benefit. The only challenge is for a machine to machine, these 2 parameters are fairly constant, but rest of the couple of parameters need to be, say, depending on the application. I'll tell you, on a simple, say, machining center or a lathe, typically we talk about manufacturing, if we monitor a hydraulic power pack pressure or a coolant flow or a lubrication flow, this will greatly reduce our downtime and the breakdown, and we can predict. These parameters are pretty fixed for the machine. And most of the expert machine say operators or the maintenance fellow know this. The only thing is the part on our quote is we have to provide them a reasonably priced and simple to operate tools to do this. Yeah?
Absolutely.
And there comes the question of skills on the shop floor and the cost of the equipment what we want to offer. And the next part is once we have a trend which is monitored locally on the machine, how to put it on internet so that it becomes a transparent to the supervisor and to his manager or something like that. That's another step ahead. So if we can achieve this in simple steps, and my colleagues would help me in this, you ask your MSME fellow what is the budget of the say system they have to do a machine predictive maintenance, and the figures will be very surprising. And if we can help our SME and MSME to help them to devise a, to offer them a solution which can be implemented in a very simple way and in a cost-effective way, I think we can fairly increase their productivity to a big extent in a very simple way.
Absolutely.
Thank you
I
very
think,
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Bipin. I think you emphasize, like, I think you're typically looking like a surgeon today. You have given a prescription for the MSME sector to measure two important parameters, temperature and vibration, and that would impact them by 45%. As a surgeon, you have given a medicine to the MSME sector now for them, a prescription to them for them to function. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have finished the first round. We move on to the second round. Before that, I would like to have two poll questions which could send the trend for the second. And the two polls are, let me launch that across. The MSME sector is hesitant or reluctant to invest in automation due to or because of investments are high, still not available, the technologies or the products are complex, no tangible gains or return on investment or ROI. I think let's give some few seconds across at least another 20-25 seconds before we get some trends displayed on the screen. I think one parameter is leading way ahead and others are balanced across. Okay. I think let me close this and share the results across. I think you can see the results now. The first, I think this is a good, interesting for all our panelists to understand. 52% of the investments, 52% of the people feel investments are high. And the second is connected to that, they feel there is no tangible gains or ROI. So, and the other two are balanced at 15% skills not available in technology. So it's a clearly trend that people in India or the panelists, or our participants feel that the investments are high. So with this in hindsight, let's move on to the second round across. My question would be to the professor across. Professor, Industry 4.0 is important, or it helps manufacturer to overcome the current challenges by becoming more flexible and reacting to changes in the market very easier. It can increase the speed of innovation and is very consumer oriented. We just saw the poll results just now, Professor, and more than 50% feel that its investments are high. And today we are looking at how we can make the legacy machines smart, that is adding smartness within a limited time, what we call jugaad or frugal engineering. How can you do that? We need your insights and your experience and your knowledge to enlighten our people on this. Go ahead, sir.
So I think the polls are actually quite instructive. At least it captures the sentiment in the MSME sectors quite well. I'm not sure that that's necessarily true for the OEMs and the large corporates.
True.
I see a very clear digital divide there between our MSMEs and our corporates. Investments are high and ROI is not clear, and that's, by the way, resonates with also the surveys that have been done in Europe and some parts of
Okay.
North America.
Okay.
They are also, the MSMEs are skeptical about the worth of the investment and the kind of change that it makes. So I think there are several points that this brings. Several points that it brings. One is that it's not only somehow fixing the current technology to the needs. Many of them may not fit, and therefore there is scope for innovation. It's actually a tremendous opportunity for innovation. That's my point number one. And second is that Industry 4.0 is not a milestone, it's a journey, because today's Industry 4 will become yesterday's Industry 2, and tomorrow's Industry 2, and there will be some other Industry 4 that will supersede that. So my specific comment would be that we need to take the challenges that are there in the Indian context, and many of them will apply elsewhere as well. Right now, we saw even among the 5 panelists, one had to disappear for some time. That's the level of connectivity in the country. In terms of the connectivity around the world, we are somewhere around 200th in the world in terms of our quality of connectivity. So if we are going to implement high quality Industry 4.0, either we have to dramatically improve our connectivity, or we have to come up with innovation that can deal with this level of connectivity. For example, can I pass a very, what shall I say, a very lightweight CAD model across the internet on a very low bandwidth? There is a company that one of my colleagues at IISc had, okay, which can send such high packets of video at an incredibly low, lightweight value. And the reason why it is possible is because he has a very high level semantic framework with which very small piece of information can be decoded on the other side. So basically you put a coding on this side, you only send the if you like the DNA of the CAD model, and the structure is created on the other side. So many times I have said that in various fora, and let me repeat it, and my apologies to those who have already heard, that what we need is advanced affordable. If you want to make 10% difference in cost, you can tinker with the current technology. If you want to make a 10 times cheaper product, you have to come up with very new technology.
Right.
So this is an opportunity for India, and its tremendous innovative strength, and its strength in IT backend services, which means that we can actually do all the dirty jobs, and somebody else takes the credit for that. Let's marry that to create a very different technology. For instance, talking about COVID, because we haven't spoken about COVID at all. A lot of people are talking about social distancing, right? Now, we need not get fixated to social distancing. If you put a mask and also a PPE on top of that, okay, your risk of getting infected goes down from 75% to 25%.
Wow.
So it may well be that if we can come up with a much smarter combination of PPE and masks, we can still work very closely physically together and don't have to stay 6 feet apart.
Correct.
Which means that we'll be back to business as normal. So let's not get fixated just because everybody says social distancing.
True.
That we have to follow social distancing. We must come up with a safe way of working together. And at this point of time, let me just spend a few seconds on the COVID point, because it's actually, as you said, a game changer. So let's look at the challenges. What are the challenges that COVID has brought? That earlier, of course, we have, our exposure to virus has been there for ages. This is not the first time. But what are the specific challenges? One is that COVID has an asymptomatic phase. Most viruses, as soon as they attack, we get a higher temperature or whatever, deformation, nosebleed, whatever, right? In this case, for 2 weeks or so, it stays pretty dormant and still infect people. To make things more interesting, it's also incredibly highly contagious, right? much more than most viruses that have come across. Third is that social distancing is actually very, very difficult. Okay, because it looks like the human beings have evolved in a manner that they do things physically together. So even if we come up with technologies, the culture is built around working together. So that is going to be a much bigger challenge to get rid of. The fourth is that, preventive measures are incredibly hard to follow. I mean, statistics says that we typically touch our face 23 times per hour on average. From that coming to a stage where you don't touch it at all, well, that's pretty tall claim. The fifth point is that if a lot of people get infected, which they're likely to, at the same time, whatever hospital facility we have is going to be inadequate.
Correct.
Sixth is that there is no clinically proven cure at the moment. And seventh, most interestingly, is that just because you are cured this time doesn't mean you won't get infected again. In other words, we have seen in Korean cases, there are so many rebound cases that are coming back. So what are you going to do about it? Once again, every challenge is actually an opportunity. I see, or we see, that there are 5 areas of opportunities for research and innovation. The first is, of course, sensing, which brings us back to Industry 4.0. How are you going to test asymptomatic cases at a distance? How are you going to test non-symptomatic cases at a distance? And let me get an example here. We typically talk about, taking a sputum or a sample of from the mouth or nose swab and then sending to a lab and getting it tested. Is it that the way in which we cough when there is a COVID case, fundamentally different from the way in which we cough when it is a non-COVID case? And can we actually sense that by doing a signal processing and come up with a fairly reliable and robust way of testing? That's going to be a very, very cheap testing, because all you require is to take the cough samples. In other words, make some noises and I'll test it. So it is actually a tremendous opportunity, because sense is one. Second is prevention. How can you interact without being physically close? This is something that some of our earlier speakers spoken about, right? But also, how can you interact being physically close and yet not get affected? And how can you do these en masse and affordably? The third area is cure. Okay, how can you dramatically increase ICU level care? It doesn't have to be an ICU. What you require is an ICU level care. How can it turn just usual spaces into ICU spaces and ICU facilities? Okay, quality ventilator is one example of that. Okay, and then how can you come up with solutions for cleaning of surfaces, but also sensing of surfaces? How do you know whether the place is contaminated or not? If I know that, half the job is done. The fourth area is tracking. How can you track infection? Okay, before and during infection and after cure. How can you track spread of infection? How can you track spread of infection through media and surfaces? And once again, how can you do that en masse and affordably? And my last point is education and training. How do you train people so that they can actually follow something? So I'll stop there.
True. I think, Professor, you idly emphasized that yes, today's challenges can be overcome through innovation and through pragmatic approach, which is the need of the hour. I think we need to be more street smart, thinking on the feet, and come out with innovative solutions to get over simple problems that we're facing today. Well thought out examples. Coming over to Bipin, to you today. My next question is continuing on the same trend. Organization, culture and skills, the factory of the future. We saw manufacturing organizations requiring skills differently today. We talked of the skills of various people, whether it's cloud platforms, edge devices, robots, artificial intelligence. There are various statistics across put out in the market, but I would not like to go through the statistics. But just to ask you a question, how skills and organizational culture currently need to undergo transformation, within brackets, like to think innovatively now, what professors explained, for building automation in manufacturing?
See, thank you for this question. It's a tall order to answer this actually. It's a very wide subject
I
because it
understand.
handles it handles with our culture of a company. Yeah.
Correct, correct.
It's very clear. We have learned it that we learn our culture basically when we are kids, from our parents or from our society. It's the same or similar thing happens in a company. It has to basically culture and concepts have to come from the top leaders of a company. Yeah, and we must have ways and means to percolate these cultures to practically every team member in the company. And it's not a short time job. It's a way and a process which takes time. And I think skills and organization cultures need to change to the direction where we find and adopt the affordable solutions towards automation. The way the Indian word jugaad is treated negatively across the world, I really don't like that. Yeah? Jugaad is viewed across the world in a negative way. I would think that we should also in these times give a positive aspect. Jugaad, yes, but it does the job. So what's the problem with the Jugaad? Yeah, let it be Jugaad and let us have the culture in the company. If we find a good solution, a workable solution, which does the job in a safe, quality way, uh, no problem with that. And this accepting jugaad comes from the leadership of a company. I have seen many companies, very small companies, having such a fantastic way of say solutions. I know a shop floor guy who has only 6 machines, and when we talk about industry 4, he said, "Bipin, forget it. I have got a simple video camera and a tower light on my machines. And from my home, sometimes I look at the video camera and I know which is the red colored tower light, where is the green colored tower light. And don't teach me about this industry 4 where I need to put all this data on a server and then I have to hire an IT guy to understand what the server does." So this guy has 6 machines and has only tower lights on his machines and he has got a video camera. Now you tell me, this has come from a culture where acceptable solution is available, invented in India. Okay, it may not be honoring the OPC UA norms or whatever, yeah, but does the job. So it's the job of a leadership to also view out of the box thinking solutions in a neutral way rather than wishing this away. So this culture we need to build in our own small and medium companies. Yeah?
Okay.
And we at the top level or at a highly automated company level should not deprive it also. Oh, ये तो बहुत ही simple है. ऐसा होना नहीं चाहिए. Yeah? That's what my only request.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It was very nicely put that we need to have affordable solutions, and Jugaadna should be looked at positively, which is not never looked negatively. That's a good point. Jitu, just coming across to you. Last we had three people talk about OPCUA and Industry 4.0. Now coming to you, you have worked on OPs both the activities. So standardization is the most important thing. So what do you think, or which is the standards? OPC is one standard, and how is it relevant to the Indian context? Is it possible to adopt to the Indian context? How can we adopt? It's a very tall, it cannot be done in 2-3 minutes, but I would like to put it in 1 or 2 minutes in your own way across. Thank you. I think you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm in, I think. In 2 minutes, I'll just try to cover this up. OPC, I think, is a part of like Industry 4.0. You need to have digitalization, which covers computerization and connectivity. And certainly the connectivity part requires OPC, which is like one of the options which is available. OPC is not just a communication, not just a protocol, but it's a communication architecture. where you can have interoperability, and it provides a lot of features, like you can have companion specifications developed by, like, where you can have connectivity from the different machine manufacturers, but the interface which is available from these different machine builders is like a semantic. You see from the upper layer like a semantic interface, like a USB stick coming from different vendors, but when you connect it to the like your laptop, it is still functioning. The same way when you get say injection molding machine from a different machine manufacturers, but when it's get connected to your ERP system or MES system, it's connected and you are ready to operate. And OPC scales from sensor to the cloud. So I think there's a lot of functions going on this OPC, and also OPC provides service-oriented architecture where machines are not doing a specific function, but they provide service. And
Correct.
this is something very interesting, where you can offer capabilities from a machine rather than operating a machine itself. And this will be helpful when you say, like, I want a lot size one kind of production, and you can then see like what all can be done with OPC UA, and then you can call for a particular service and say, like, here I want to do this with this kind of a interface or this kind of parameters, and you can parameterize the machine easily. Also
Very
here
interesting.
VDMA, yeah. Also here VDMA together with Fraunhofer Institute is working very much on the this standards, IC standards of OPC UA for Industry 4.0. I think this is a very interesting thing, and also they are OPC or VDMA is together with OPC also working on this companion specification development, where the machine builders or the equipment manufacturers are also part of this, and they together are developing the standards of companion specifications for interoperability and other stuff. From the Indian context point of view, as we see, like the Indian industry is growing fast. So currently the GDP is dropping. I know that because of the COVID situation. But as per McKinsey, if you neglect the COVID situation, by 2025 we should be 1 trillion. Manufacturing sector should grow to 1 trillion. That was the number. And when we see this coming up, so the important parameter here is productivity, because, and as Bipin also mentioned, Jugaad and other stuff. So we have to see, like, now when we are talking about like 1.37 billion people now in India, almost getting to number 1 now. And we have to see now the local market getting more important with this COVID situation, when travel is banned and you see like import export having challenges. So we have a lot of people here itself in our own country which they can serve to, right? And this requires a lot of challenges where productivity can be increased, and like a lot of challenges for the local industry itself. And OPC UA with this Industry 4.0 together, I think this can certainly help to scale up this thing and automate to match the market needs. That's what.
True. I think essence of the industry is to have standardization for anything, because that can be easily replicable and easily adoptable easily across. My next question to Mr. Ravi Agarwal. Ravi, I think we all have the technologies. We all know the benefits. We all know what it can do. But the leadership challenges today, and we saw the poll result also, investments, people are feeling tight. So how can this leadership in the MSME sector or in the organization overcome this paradigm or challenge and move to a sort of digital package? Because that should be the normal in the future. It should be adopted sometime or the other. So what do you think that the leadership should do to overcome these thoughts and thinking so that they can adopt it across?
Well, Manohar, I have enormous amount of faith in the entrepreneurial minds, be it India or abroad, because it's always related to value of anything vis-a-vis an enterprise. Now, with due regards to everybody, including my own automation fraternity and elsewhere, the examples I will be taking, I mean, sometimes we are the ones who are scaring people by bombarding technology. Now, I'll just take an analogy, Manohar, with your kind permission. If I have a small ailment and I go to the chemist, do I buy the medicine for that ailment or do I buy the whole chemist shop?
Yeah.
Means I'll correlate now what I stated in last minute or so. I have extreme faith in entrepreneurial mind, wherein I talked about supermarket of technologies. The enterprise has to take up the solution from the automation supermarket to reduce the pain point or come over a problem, whatever it might be. And the challenge of the biggest challenge to Industry 4 is the bombardment of technology, wherein we are painting a big Taj Mahal of Industry 4.0, whereas my colleagues have so nicely put, it's an evolution, it's a process that we take something and apply it to mitigate the problem of my enterprise. Don't change the enterprise as such. So, to the entrepreneur, to the business leaders, the need of the hour remains, how can we actually explain the values a certain technology might bring in order to overcome a problem an enterprise might be facing? Whether, as Vipin says, it's about maintenance issues or human and robotics working together, or innovative solutions as Professor Amrish has spoken, or the standardization and open technologies as my colleague has spoken. So I would say I put my faith into the entrepreneurial hands, but the issue remains that how do we really simplify and offer things. Last closing comment on that would be to people who are abhorring, who are averse to technology, must actually talk and think that how can technology help them rather than being a burden on the purse. Because all said and done, proper application of the right technology is the ladder to the future. And as an entrepreneurial mind, one has to buy that, one has to take it as a concept. Over to you, Manohar.
Thank you very much. I think you have very nicely put across. It is a concept. Yes, people need entrepreneurial energy and challenges. I mean, the motivation to overcome these challenges and take it forward. We're already stretching beyond the time limit. My last question to Pradeep, but not the least. Pradeep, we have seen a lot of emerging models. I think you have. I mean, people are talking everything as a service. We just heard Jitu explaining SOP architecture. Today, people want maintenance as a service, production as a service, product as a service, everything as a service. So there are a lot of evolving models that are coming in the manufacturing flow, supply chain management. People are talking of fractional ownership, typical to a Uber sort of concept. So how do you think, can you enumerate how these emerging models can be adopted and mixed with automation and digitization on the shop floor? I think it's an interesting topic and a lot of people would like to know about it, Pradeep. You mute it, please. Unmute it, please.
Sorry about that. Yeah, one you didn't mention was RAAS, which is now Robot as a Service.
Okay.
That's available today, by the way. You could rent a robot, just like, if you needed to do, you've got a big order and you need to accomplish something, it's RAAS is available. So I'd like to answer your question with 4 distinct points here, okay? What can people walk away with from this seminar and use immediately? Number 1, partial automation. Number 2, flexible automation. Number 3, democratization of automation. And number 4 is women empowerment. So I'm just going to very quickly give you examples. So partial automation, I'd like to refer to Ravi Agarwal's, and if you don't mind, I'm going to quote this. I love what you said about the automation supermarket and how we oversell this thing. Let me explain what partial automation is. Partial automation, being in automation 30 years of my life in various companies, I can tell you that the 80-20% rule applies. You do a project for automation, 80% is easily accomplishable. The last 20% is going to cost you 80%. Okay, so what do we say here? Finish the 80%, leave the 20% to a human being. We have plenty of human beings in India, right? So you can really make your automation cost low by having partial automation. This means you can have a robot and a human being work together. That's what a cobot is. So that's why I believe the time of cobots have come. Where a human being and robot work together and drop your cost of automation dramatically By the way, this can't be done by robots, industrial robots. You have to put the fence around, right? So, and it also takes up the huge amount of space. Number two, flexible automation. You know, and this I'd like to refer to what Bipin Jirge said, and that is Jugaad. You know, you may look at this as Jugaad, but have you, robots have been around since 1960. Have you ever heard of Ford taking a robot from this machine and putting it in that machine? Impossible. A robot was bought as a piece of capital equipment, fixed on the ground, and the next 30 years it's doing its own thing, because you had the same type of cars coming out. Those days are gone. Flexible automation is the name of the game today. When you buy an automation product, you have to be able to use it based on low volume, high, and very high mix. So I'll give you an example. Cobots, for example, quick installation, easy programming, transportable. So L'Oreal in Pune, they bought a cobot of ours, put it on a shampoo line. That shampoo line went out of business. Next time we visited, that cobot was moved by L'Oreal to another line. Now you may call it Jugaad. I wouldn't call it. That's actually flexible automation. It's taking, a piece of capital equipment, using it like a drill where you need it, So that was the second concept, flexible automation. Third concept, democratization of automation. What do I mean by that? We all heard, okay, Bajaj Auto, he's got 100 cobots. We'd expect them to have it. Tata, P&G is our customer. Mahindra, Bosch, we expect them to have this technology. But let me give you examples of Shruti Engineering. You may not even have heard of these guys. They have 10 people working for them, 10, 5 machines. What do they have there? They have a cobot, because they cannot rely on labor that's gone back to Kolhapur and not coming back after COVID to keep their auto components running, right? So democratization of automation. This is affordable by the small guy, okay? Craft and technique, SMEW, a textile manufacturer. New engineering works. You walk into this place. When I drove by this place, I just drove right by. I didn't even see it. It's that small a place. Today they have 7 cobots because they're able to be programmed by their engineers. You don't need a robotic engineer to do this. SMEs in India are using cobots, okay, to bring them into Industry 4.0. I think this is a very important message. No point saying, I don't have the money to do it. I know 52% field investments are high. How can a guy with 5 machines and 10 operators buy this technology? Because he has made a commitment. I need to follow Industry 4.0. I need to have quality products, and therefore I'm going to embark on this journey of Industry 4.0. Okay. So that would be last one is my personal favorite, and that's women empowerment. Rahul Bajaj has a vision of having 50% women on his shop floors. We're accomplishing it with cobots. Because nowadays you don't need the effort. This lady used to screw 800 bolts a day. We've put a little cobot with a vision system. It tightens all the bolts. The Newton meters of the bolts are exact. It's tied to the VIN number of the vehicle. Quality goes through the roof. You're able to hire women. Higher pool of labor available to you, right? So I think we need to embrace technology. I think we need to embrace automation. Yes, I understand that ROI investments are high. We feel that way, but take the step. Don't fall into the trap of do nothing.
Correct. I think Pradeep, you have summed it up well for the whole webinar. I mean, quoting all examples on partial automation, flexible automation, various other things, but very important. Walk baby steps, take baby steps. Investments are not expensive. It is possible. Let's face the spending over a longer period. And your 80-20 example is very nice. I think all said and done, yes, 80% of the activities could be achieved with 20% of the investment. I'm sure that people can think about that and move forward would be a great example. And we have plenty of questions coming. Before, I would like to ask each panelist one question so that we can close it up. We can't give injustice to all these questions, but let me do that at least. But before that, let's go to the last poll of the day. Yeah, the last poll of the day is, I would like to launch it. Friends, would like to have your opinion. Yeah, it says, so what will drive automation in mechanical engineering industry post-COVID or lockdown? What will drive automation in mechanical engineering industry post-COVID or lockdown? Productivity, cost effectiveness, labor shortage, consistent quality. Okay, there don't seem to be any trends as such emerging. Let's give some time. Another 10 seconds if possible. Yeah, I would like to close it and share the result across. Yeah, as you can see, dear friends, what will drive automation in the mechanical engineering industry post-COVID? 33% people feel cost effectiveness. So I think it clearly sets the trend. Investments are high, but yes, ultimate result would be cost effectiveness. So it's worth, as Pradeep and the panelists and other people, professors mentioned, that let's be innovative, let's think pragmatically, let's put small baby steps of investments and achieve cost effectiveness and productivity in this current situation where we would have labor shortage. So good inputs from our participants. So dear friends, we have, as I said to you, yes, we are already running short. I would not like to overstretch much, but let's have each question to a panelist across. Let's start with Professor across. Professor, there are one or two questions which I would like to combine across. That is, yes, you talked about social distancing and you mentioned about shortage, and you also talked about there's a collaboration between industry and academia. Is not to that extent what is anticipated, as we see. I mean, you're as we can see from your profile, you are actively involved in a lot of councils in Germany, US, and various other countries. So, in compared to those countries, the academia industry collaboration is not very high. So, how can we strengthen to help the industry to be think innovatively and move forward?
I think it's a big question which requires a very long answer, but I'll just touch on it and move on. Okay. So first of all, the myth that other countries have much greater industry in academia collaboration is a myth. If you look at it from the point of view of funding, okay, all major research is funded by government, not industry.
Oh,
very little funding comes from industry, very little.
Okay.
To academia. It doesn't matter whether it's US, it doesn't matter whether it's India. But what happens in many countries is that the collaboration is incentivized by the government, so that a relatively small percentage of money, or sometimes no money, is going to have to be provided by the industry. And it is the problem that is shared and the expertise that is brought together. And that model is what has worked very well in Germany. You work for VDMA, you know very well. It is something that we are only waking up to right now. And there are some efforts that have been taken up by the Department of Science and Technology and Ministry of Human Resource Development, such as the program called Imprint, or UAY, Uchchatar Avishkar Yojana, where there is a rule of 80-20, where 80% money comes from the government and 20% is what is to be provided by the industry, and the problem has to be industry relevant. So such activities, such programs are going to be helpful. But please make no mistake, most of the work that gets done, on which the top up is done by industry, is done in academia with funding from government.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's a new, I mean, that's a new learning. Yeah, it's a new learning. Yeah. Pradeep, you mentioned, I think there are a couple of questions you mentioned on Kobo, statistics of 4 robots for 10,000 people in the factory. It's a very low level of application in industry. Now, I'm sure this would impact, with the impact of COVID and the labor force social distancing, can this throw an opportunity to adopt more robots in the manufacturing? Could this go from 4 to probably post-lockdown 10? I don't know.
Yes, we hope so anyway. By the way, we are looking at manufacturers talking to us now. The food and while the auto components sector is down, we all know that. Just look at the stocks of the FMCG companies. Whether it's the Nestle's or P&G's, or they're going through the roof, right? So through lockdown, we've all as Indians eaten quite well, and FMCG companies are doing quite well. So I feel that, and of course the bio companies are now talking a lot about cobots, so pharmaceutical companies. So there'll be a little shift because the primary usage of cobots was automotive. I think we're going to see a little bit of shift. Electronics is another big one. In China, for example, one of the numbers that I didn't share when I said 4 robots per 10,000, do you know what the number in South Korea happens to be? China was 140. Make one guess. Anybody? It's 774 per 10,000. Almost
Wow.
200 times. In other words, one robot we put in India, South Korea is putting in about 200. Okay, that just gives you the disparity in the level of automation and manufacturing excellence that we are having around the globe. So I really believe that we will wake up, because we're not going to be able to be competitive without doing this kind of automation. So to answer your question, I think it's going to be forced. There's no question we're going to have to raise our level of quality, raise our level of productivity, less dependence on labor, and all the kind of things that robots are bringing to the market.
I think there's no question on OPCUL licensing that we'll take it in the end. I thought of addressing it to Jitu, but we'll take it offline. Jitu, to you, another question is this extreme supply chain disruption. Do you feel German companies in India would look to increase local sourcing?
It's already happening. So I see
Already
I see like a lot of German, because back office it's all made in Germany, so we don't produce in India. But when we see like all the VDMA members or the IGCC members, so a lot of productions like is happening in India. They're sourcing from India. Also, I see like a lot of machine builders in India. They are getting orders from German machine builders, German companies. So, and Indians are supplying machines to Germany. So this is a new trend which is coming up. So I see like the intelligence or the kind of innovation which we see happening in India is appreciated by the Europeans also. But certainly it's like 1 or 2 cases. I hope that this grows further, and we'll have more companies doing such kind of work.
Good. Ravi, MSME is the backbone of Indian manufacturing. How can MSME, we heard this question across, and you had also talked about it, that investments are the challenges. How can they be motivated? We talked about leadership also. Could there be any other incentive to motivate them for automation?
Well, I'm again a strong believer of business. Why did the MSME come in being? Because there is a man or a family who believes that this is the potential of business. They've gone about manufacturing something, putting things together. And I believe that there is no state called static in business. There is only one-way street, and the businesses have to grow. It's a negative thing that COVID gives us a break, an opportunity. It's an acceleration, it's an opportunity. And again, it's something that will be, I would say, distinguishing enterprising. Those enterprises where leadership wants to grow, has the wherewithal to grow, and is able to encash the opportunity to grow. And mind my saying, technology is a catalyst to growth. Technology cannot be the fundamental foundation of growth, but a catalyst of growth. So as long as there is technology, and as long as there is a willpower of the MSME to grow, and there is no reason. Closing comments on that from my side. Where do you think are some of the biggest markets in the world? It's India. And do you think, or do we think that humongous requirements of the Indian market across the spectrum will be met by imports? It has to be manufactured here. And that will be manufactured by the MSMEs, who will become micro, will become small, small will become medium, and medium will become big. And automation will be the catalyst.
Good. No, I like the word automation is the catalyst. I think that should be coined for, I think it is a nice word, and also graduation of micro to small, small to medium, medium to large. That's a promotion they need across. The last question of the day, not the least, to the most wiser person, one of the wiser person on the panel is, if India goes for higher automation in the coming years, I didn't know there was a poll which I did not put it, but due to show paucity of time, but do we have skill sets available to cater to the demand? Vipin, to you.
Oh, it's a tall question. I
No, I
strongly
want you to
believe,
address it shortly, please.
yeah, I think the answer is step-by-step automation. We do have skills, absolutely. I have a very big faith in our not only engineers but also the people on the shop floor. They have skills, absolutely.
Okay.
The answer, very short answer is yes. Skill is not a
Okay.
problem. We'll learn it, and they are doing it. In fact, that is not a problem.
Oh, good, good, good. So we do have the skills, friends. I think we are already beyond 30 minutes of the allotted time what we had planned. But we had an interesting, enlightening discussions, and I'm sure, in fact, the platform was full for the within a minute, and it was full for almost a major portion of the webinar. And up till then, we had almost 75% of the people we are logged in at the moment across. Friends, today, we talk of automation. Technical automation potential is greatly and vastly available and very beneficial for the MSME sector or the participants today across. The fact that 81% of the world's automatable manufacturing hours and 49% of the automatable labor value residing is in developing countries. And mind you, that an upswing in automation in the developing world could have a significant global impact. So that's the word. And we all discuss and we all know that we need to work in baby steps of automation, invest in baby steps, and take it to higher level of automation and productivity. I thank all our esteemed panelists who are part of our webinar today. I thank Professor for having accepted our request and being on the panel and also being a partner for the day across. Thank you, Professor. And he's a very illustrious person. In fact, I have a long offer page credibility credentials of when he sends his signatory. I think he's on various panels in India and various panels all around the world. It's very nice to have such an illustrious person on our panel. Thank you very much. Thank you for being with us, Professor. Thank you very much. We have Mr. Ravi Agarwal, who was also the president of Automation Industrial Association. He's also on the panel of IIT Delhi on automation. Thank you, Ravi, for accepting us and being on this panel. We had Bipin, who is from a town of Kolhapur, who has put the Kolhapur on the global map of having the only VDMA member in Kolhapur. Thank you, Bipin. And he's taking the city of Kolhapur to greater heights for being present there. Thank you, Bipin. And Mr. Jitendra Kataria, Bekov, who are on the global map and who have been one of their partners or working together on OPCUA in various levels with us. Thank you, Bipin. Thank you, Jitu. Thank you for being with us across.
Thank you.
And not this Pradeep, who talks of Cobos all along, and he talks of Cobos right from the hospital to La L'Oreal, which is fashion design industry, and not excluding manufacturing. So yes, applied his Cobos in various wide spectrum of the industry. It's nice to have you, Pradeep. Thank you very much. Not but the least, dear friends and participants, for your valuable presence who have made our day. We thank you for your valuable presence and your questions. We could not address most of them, but obviously we'll take it offline. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay connected. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.